Hello, you all. Welcome to Episodes with Faye. Hope we're all doing okay here in the city of Jos. It is a beautiful Tuesday, and I must say the weather of Jos today is very lovely. Hope you all are doing okay in your different states and in your different homes, and hope you all are having an amazing day. Hope the weather of your state is not making you have mixed feelings. Hope the weather is okay today. Well, welcome to another episode with Faith. So very quickly, we'll be rushing into the topic of today, which is depression. So we're going to be talking about depression. So yes, we're going to be talking about depression. We're going to be looking at it in details. You'll be hearing the stories and then ways in which people have been able to overcome depression, and then the right words to say to people when they're going through this. And then, a lot of people are actually depressed and then they don't even know that they're depressed. They just think it as, okay, I'm just having mood swings. It's just something, I'm just annoyed, I'm just angry. It's something that will pass over. Not knowing that they are depressed, but they are not aware that they are depressed. And before you know, it's a build up. You don't know how to handle it because you don't know that you're depressed already. And then it begins to build up, and then you start having thoughts that could lead to suicide and all of that. So a lot of people could be in the state of being depressed and not actually know that they are depressed. So we're going to be looking at depression in details, and then you'll be hearing people's solution or ways they've been able to deal with depression. And then you'll be also hearing what are people's biggest motivation at their lowest times. Because at those moments when you're down, you don't feel like anything is working for you, what pushes you through? I brought this because I feel like a lot of people need to hear words that will help them heal, that will motivate them to do better, to know that a lot of people are also going through stuff like this. It's not just you, and then this is something you can deal with. The fact that you're depressed doesn't mean you should die in depression or end up committing suicide or ending your life because it's no longer worth it to live for. No. So that's why I brought this particular episode to us. So now I will just be briefly talking about depression before we listen to other people's opinion and their ways of overcoming depression and what motivates them at their lowest point in time. Now, a lot of people feel like, okay, to be depressed is a sin. It is something that you shouldn't even mention. I was doing like a research and review, and I was asking people, have you ever been depressed? Everyone was like, I had like quite a large amount of people like, I've never been depressed, never. Nothing has brought me. I heard all of that. To be depressed, I'm not saying it's a good place to be in, but it is not a sin. I have been depressed. But my depression didn't get to that stage whereby, okay, I have to commit suicide. I want to commit suicide. Thoughts like that were ranging through, but it wasn't something really valid that I wanted to do. Or it had gotten to that stage. No. But I have been depressed. Nothing was working. Every day, waking up every day was too worrisome. I didn't even want to wake up because waking up, it's the same problem, and then me not being able to deal with it was a big issue. I was a mess. I was so clouded with so much thoughts. There were endless thoughts just popping in. I was unhappy. And another thing is that when you're idle, it is so easy for you to fall into depression. At that particular time, I was looking for what to do with my life. I didn't know the next step to take, and I'm this kind of person that has dreamt of going far in life. And at that particular stage, I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't even know I could write. So it was tiring. It was like, what is the essence of my life? Flare up at any little thing, I will cry. It was too much. I knew I was already in depression. I was depressed already. And I started to look for ways to get out of it because it is not a good place to be in. And in those times, it is easy for the devil to sell thoughts of committing suicide, sell negative thoughts to you. And in those times, there are critical moments where you need the right words and then you need the right people to speak to you. So I would just be detailing depression in a few minutes, and we would listen to other people say how much depression has cost them or the ways they've been able to deal with depression. The quick details to know about depression. We'll start with the symptoms of depression. We must know that depression ranges from mild to severe. At the mild state, you persistently just feel low in spirit, while the severe state is where you feel or have those suicidal thoughts. Yes, so it ranges when it comes to depression. And then at the severe point, you feel like life is no longer worth living. Then depression is more than simply feeling or happy or fed up for a few days. Depression is persistently feeling sad for weeks or months rather than just a few days. And we must know that depression is not a sign of weakness or something you can just snap your finger out of by pulling yourself together and then you just get out of it. But no, with the right treatment, most people are able to fully recover from it. And then how to tell if you're depressed. We have lasting feelings of unhappiness and hopelessness, then down to losing interest in the things you used to enjoy. And then what causes depression? One, sometimes there are things that trigger depression, like life-changing events. You want to cross a milestone and then you don't know how to handle it, like I will share my story, and then you can just fall into depression. And then we have bereavement, we have losing your job. Sometimes it could be hereditary as well. And then sometimes also there are not even any obvious reasons. You just see yourself falling into depression. Then the solutions we have, you could see a doctor. It is very important to see a doctor before it gets worse. A lot of people feel like it's not something that is important, but it is important because once you don't start treating it at the early stage, you can end up losing your life from it. Then from that, you could see lifestyle changes to talking therapies, and then there could be medicine. Yes, there are drugs you take like antidepressants. Another thing is when you're treating depression, it usually comes on the stage or the range you're at. Like we already said earlier, there is the mild stage of depression, there is the severe stage of depression, there's also the moderate stage whereby there is no really growth. So your treatment comes in at what range are you at? Are you at the mild stage? Then you could have your doctor just say, okay, let's take a watchful waiting, or let's do watchful waiting, and then just recommending exercise for you and help groups where you could talk about what you're going through. That way you could be relieved. And then there's also the talking therapies, the cognitive behavioral therapy, that you talk about what is going on. With therapies, the severe stage, everything is recommended. Medicine to your treatment to antidepressant to all of it is recommended. And then there are benefits of depression. Yes, funny enough, people who have been depressed and after fully recovering, there's some benefits they actually stand to benefit from it, which has to do with one, life changes in getting more exercise, cutting down on alcohol, giving up on smoking, and eating healthy. So we must know that depression is not a weakness. It is something that can be treated if you notice it early, from the symptoms of giving to how you can know that you're depressed. So it is good you talk to people, and it's very important when you know you could like there are support groups where you share your experiences. Everybody is saying what they have been through, and that way you're able to, it's not something that you end up dying in silence, because if you don't treat it early, you end up dying from it. Yes. So now let's hear the experiences of people who have been depressed and how they've overcome this. It could be mild, it could be severe, but let's hear from them. The first person we have here is Kima.
I still feel the ripples till today. It affects every area of my life, especially my relationship with people and anyone I'm romantically interested or involved with. I can't say I overcame it completely, but I'm better than I was then. My family helped me, my mom was supportive, and she took more interest in my life. That's why I'm super close with her. I tell her everything. My relationship with my brother took a mature turn. We had an understanding on common ground. My biggest motivation, honestly, for me, when I'm down, it will be looking back. The past is important to the present, because the present builds the future. So when I'm really at my lowest point and I feel terrible, I just think back to worse situations that I have been and the fact that I still conquered them. And then this Bible verse pops into my head that the plans I have for you are of good and not of evil, to bring you to an expected end, and gives me the strength to move on.
So the next one is from Godfrey, and he says depression can get as bad as ending it all. Like, I have had thoughts of suicide, I won't lie. At some point, frustration makes you think things and want to do things. Like, why not just end it all? I mean, death is easy, living is hard. This was what was rotating in my head at some point. But I also thought, if I did that, what have I lived for? Will my parents really be proud of me wherever they are? Being depressed led me to finding closure in places I don't really fit in, with people I'm not supposed to be hanging out with. If a person fails to understand this and haven't realized his state of being, it will just lead to regret and more frustration, which leads to destruction of oneself. He also goes on to say, honestly, depression can lead to a new lifestyle, totally different from what the person was before. First, you need to come to the realization of your situation. Then the acceptance stage, where you have to admit to being depressed due to the situation. I had to open up, talk to people, not just any people, but people who were positive minded, who won't discriminate you. Because the more you keep to yourself, the more angry you get, and the more you tend to find temporary solutions to get your mind off it. Then I changed my circle of friends, and finally I ran to God, or someone dragged me to God. And that was the most fulfilling decision I ever made. Like, look at me now, I'm doing great, can't remember when last I smoked. Jeez. And then on the part on his biggest motivation and what he does or who motivates him at his lowest stage, he said, honestly, I am a child of grace, like I am the perfect definition of grace if it was to be defined as a person. Looking at me, you won't ever know I am maxing a lot. God has been using people to tend to my needs and wants. I am never lacking. Godfrey, thank you so much for sharing this, for sharing your experience. This was deep, and I am grateful you're out of that stage. Thank you so much for sharing. And then the next person we have is Ayo Samuel.
Hi, my name is Samuel. I think the last time that I had depression was, I think it came from my parents, and then it was easy to get away from depression because I went out, talked to people, listening to other people. It helps a lot. Okay, so my biggest motivation at my lowest moments, I feel it's trying to prove everybody wrong. Stuff that they feel you can't do. Now, the way they think about you, you just try to show them that actually you can actually achieve those things.
Well, we've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've been able to learn one or two things from what we've discussed from today and from the stories that were shared. Thank you, Kima. Thank you, Samuel Ayer. Thank you, Godfrey, for being willing to share your experiences and how you've been able to overcome depression and what you do at your lowest moment. Thank you so much. And you all already know that being depressed is not a sign of weakness, and it is treatable. You can treat it, you can overcome it. So do not keep silent, do not let it build up until you start having suicidal thoughts. Yes, so thank you so much. Keep tuning in, keep listening. We'll see you next Tuesday with more insightful topics or titles that will intrigue you and definitely will be very, very educating. Thank you so much and see you next Tuesday.